everyone. We're having some technical difficulties in here today, but that's okay. You know, I love to talk to everybody else but me about everyone except me on my show. My first guest has been on with me, gosh, at least a couple of years now. I have with me Jason Treguboff, and he is the owner of Treguboff Law. I want you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, Carol, it's good to be back. It's been a while. But yeah, my name's Jason Treguboff. I am a solo practitioner. I practice in the area mainly of bankruptcy. It's about 95% of what I do. I've been doing it for about almost 15 years now. You know, some probate, but for the most part, bankruptcy. And I'm almost a West Valley native. I've been out there almost my entire life.
Wow. But you know what? Here's the thing people need to know. This is a really good time for people to be coming on right now because, you know, there's some rules or regulations when it comes to going bankrupt, but it also is something that I think people don't realize that they have the right to do it. A lot of people hold back from doing it because they probably feel badly, but it is your God-given right, right?
Absolutely.
At least your constitutional right.
Absolutely.
Right? But also, because of tax season coming up,
Absolutely.
good time to do it now.
Absolutely. We're at the time of year where filings typically really start to pick up, or at least planning for a filing really starts to pick up. You know, people are, you know, we're through the holidays, everybody got through that, and then a lot of people are ready just to get a fresh start. You know, that's what bankruptcy is designed for, is to get you a fresh start. So there are some things, you know, you need to watch out for before you file. There's some mistakes you don't want to make. You know?
Right.
And you need to be aware of, you know, you brought it up to tax returns, right? You know, so a lot of people are expecting a big tax refund. A lot of people, that's really helps them make ends meet for sometimes 6 to 12 months. They really depend on that money, and so you want to make sure it's protected. And there's certain things you need to do before you file bankruptcy to make sure that you have access to those funds and you don't have to turn them over to a bankruptcy trustee.
Now, when you work with people, you do a consultation with them. Let's see, what does it look like when they call you?
So somebody will call me for a consultation, and you know, we say it's a half-hour consultation, but there's really not much of a time limit. You know, we want to take our time to make sure that they're free to ask all the questions that they have, but I need to get the information from them that I need to make a good case analysis, right? So I usually start the consultation off just asking, tell me a little bit about what you're going through right now, and then that just kind of starts the conversation from there. When people call me, they don't need exact numbers, for debts or for income. We're just talking generalized ballpark numbers.
It starts with their story, right? Everybody has one. I think the most important thing is that a lot of people put their heads in the sand, and then you end up getting all of these calls and all these calls. And what's really nice about when you work with Jason is the minute that you stop getting those calls, right? And there's a little peace of mind that comes along with this.
Absolutely. As soon as you file your case, you're protected by what we call the automatic stay of Section 362 of the Bankruptcy Code. What does that mean? It means that's the umbrella of protection that comes over you, and it stops or stays all collection attempts during the pendency of your bankruptcy. And that's what you're really looking for. It's a very powerful tool because it even can stop the IRS.
Wow. So if anything can stop the IRS, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Everybody would want that. Now, when they call, you call 623-680-6504. You can check him out on his website. It's tregubofflaw.com. I do want to talk about some things. Obviously, there's a difference. There's Chapter 7, there's Chapter 3. What are the differences between the two?
Well, so Chapter 7 is what most people think of as bankruptcy. All right, it's a liquidating bankruptcy, and by liquidating, we mean that you're going to liquidate what we call non-exempt assets. It doesn't mean you're going to lose your house. It doesn't mean you're going to lose your vehicle. It means assets you have that are non-exempt. Now, some people might have 2 houses. They might have a rental property with equity. Maybe a Chapter 7 is not right for them because they may want to hang on to that. So we may have to look at a different chapter. But Chapter 7 is what most people think of as bankruptcy. It's, you file the bankruptcy, you file all the necessary paperwork, you give up whatever non-exempt assets might happen to be there, and then you get your fresh start and you move on. In a Chapter 13, you're making a payment to a trustee, typically for 5 years, max of 5 years, sometimes as short as 3, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to repay all of your debt. Most Chapter 13s, when you get down to it, they rate, the unsecured creditors are getting pennies on the dollar, generally.
But one thing that I know, a lot of people try and do these things on their own, especially now. I mean, because of the internet, it's available to them. Why is it important to use an attorney?
Because the law is always changing. We've, in Arizona recently, especially over the last 3-4 years, we've had a lot of changes to our exemption statutes. Those are the statutes that exempt certain types of property. When you look at the exemptions, a lot of them, for the most part, changed for the better. If you're a debtor, right? If you're like me, you, the average person out there, they really changed for us. They protected us from our creditors. However, there's another side to that whole argument, and the creditors don't want to be left out, and so there's a lot of litigation challenging some of those new laws and how they're interpreted, and so you definitely, even if you file a bankruptcy on your own, you should still at least talk to an attorney to get some advice about what's going on, in the legal world with the bankruptcy rules and the state rules, because bankruptcy is kind of this combination of both state law and federal law.
Well, in my opinion, anybody that is dealing with something like this, and it can happen to anyone, where it's not like it's a bad thing that happens to a bad person, right? Bad things happen to good people.
No, and we encourage risk-taking. We want people to take risks. We want people to try and start new businesses. We want people to innovate, and that doesn't always work out, but that's okay, right? We want people to have the opportunity to get a fresh start.
And you can call him. His phone number is 623-680-6504. He does free consultations, and he also works statewide. That website is Tregubofflaw.com. I do also want to talk really quickly about when somebody calls you, and like you said, they don't really need a lot. They just need to come in and just kind of sit down and talk about your story. How long does it take once you start talking for them to start getting this, like, that monkey off their back?
Sometimes it's just a matter of minutes, and other times, it's a really complex issue, and it's going to take an hour or more to kind of flesh out what's really going on. But, most people, within 15 to 30 minutes, I'm going to be able to tell you, here's what your best options are, here's what I think what I think you should do, and then it's up to them to decide how they want to proceed.
How long does a bankruptcy stay on your credit?
Good question. I think it's anywhere from 8 to 10 years. I always tell people I'm not in the credit repair business. By the time most people get to me, the credit score is already in the tank, and then it starts to improve after the bankruptcy because you've wiped out all the derogatory remarks, all the late payments, all of that stuff. All the debt shows is wiped out, and so quite surprisingly, people their score improves pretty dramatically after they file. Usually within 2 years, you'll qualify for a home mortgage. At that point, it's not going to be the bankruptcy that stops
You're not
it.
a risk anymore,
Right,
really. You're
right.
really not. Again, write this number down. It may be you or someone that you know. His phone number is 623-680-6504. He does do free consultations, and he works statewide. It's Tregubofflaw.com. Tregubofflaw.com. I got it.
Absolutely.